Welcome to my Channel Deep Sleep Mission-DSM. As we begin, I would be delighted if you could share your location in the comments below. It's truly inspiring to witness how far this content travels and to connect with viewers from across the world. Listen, do you believe some machines can see through time? That they can peel back the layers of what you are and show you what you'll become? Because 3 weeks ago, I would have laughed at that question. Now I can't sleep without checking my locks twice, and I've started avoiding mirrors because sometimes I see things in them that haven't happened yet. My name is Marcus, and I need to tell you about the lie detector test that changed everything. If you're listening to this late at night, maybe turn on another light. Trust me on this one. The story begins now. I work at Meridian Tech Solutions in downtown Seattle. Just another corporate drone pushing papers and attending meetings that could have been emails. The rain was particularly heavy that October morning when HR sent out the company-wide memo. New security protocols, mandatory polygraph tests for all employees with Level 3 clearance and above. It's just routine, my supervisor Janet had said, her smile a little too wide. New government contracts mean new requirements, nothing to worry about. But here's the thing. I had nothing to hide. Clean record, boring life, never even shoplifted a candy bar as a kid. So why did my hands shake when I signed the consent form? The testing was scheduled for the following Monday. They brought in a specialist from some company called Temporal Securities Inc., Dr. Rebecca Chen, according to her badge. She set up in Conference Room B, the one with no windows. The one we usually avoided because the fluorescent lights flickered in a pattern that gave everyone headaches. I was fourth in line. Thompson went first, came out looking pale but said nothing. Then Rodriguez, who actually laughed when she exited, making some joke about the machine knowing about her secret coffee addiction. Williams was third, and he didn't come back to his desk that day. HR said he had a family emergency. We never saw him again. My turn. Dr. Chen was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with eyes that seemed to look through you rather than at you. The machine on the table wasn't like any polygraph I'd seen in movies. It was sleek, almost organic looking, with sensors that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. "Please sit, Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice carrying an accent I couldn't place. "This won't take long." She attached the sensors, cold metal, against my skin. The machine hummed to life, and the room temperature seemed to drop 5 degrees. "We'll start with baseline questions," Dr. Chen explained, studying a tablet that glowed with text I couldn't read. "Simple yes or no answers. Is your name Marcus Hayes?" "Yes." The machine made a soft chirping sound. Normal response. "Are you 34 years old?" "Yes." Another chirp. "Have you ever stolen from your employer?" "No." Chirp. Then she paused, tilting her head like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Her fingers danced across the tablet, and the machine's hum grew deeper. "Mr. Hayes," she said slowly, "have you ever experienced temporal displacement?" What? I don't understand the question." The machine didn't chirp this time. It sang, a low, mournful note that made my teeth ache. Dr. Chen's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting. Let me rephrase. Have you ever had dreams that later came true?" My mouth went dry. Because yes, I had. Little things. Knowing my phone would ring before it did. Dreaming about conversations that happened the next day word for word. But everyone had those moments, right? Deja vu was just a glitch in the brain. Sometimes, I admitted. But doesn't everyone? The machine's song grew louder, and the sensors against my skin began to warm. Dr. Chen leaned forward, and I swear her pupils dilated until her eyes were almost black. "Mr. Hayes, I'm going to ask you something unusual now. Don't think about your answer. Just respond with the first thing that comes to mind. What happens on November 15th? The words came out before I could stop them. The building catches fire. 3rd floor. Sarah Martinez doesn't make it out. The room went silent. Even the omnipresent hum of the ventilation system seemed to pause. Dr. Chen stared at me, and I stared back, my heart hammering against my ribs. Because I had no idea who Sarah Martinez was. We didn't have anyone by that name in our department. I don't know why I said that, I stammered. I don't know any Sarah Martinez. Dr. Chen's fingers flew across her tablet. The machine's song became a symphony, notes I felt in my bones rather than heard. The sensors grew hot enough to burn, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her professional composure cracking slightly. "The machine is showing something unprecedented. It's not just reading your physiological responses to truth and deception. It's reading probability streams, future potentials radiating from your current state. That's impossible." "Is it?" She turned the tablet toward me. The screen showed a cascade of data, but underneath the numbers and graphs, I saw images, glimpses, a woman with dark hair screaming, smoke filling a stairwell, a date stamp, 11:15. "We need to continue," Dr. Chen said, her voice urgent now. "The machine has locked onto something. Mr. Hayes, I need you to tell me what you see when you look at this." She held up a blank white card, but it wasn't blank. Not to me. I saw myself, older, grayer, standing in an empty office building, windows shattered, dust motes dancing in shafts of sunlight. And in my hand, "I'm holding a photograph," I whispered. "A photograph of everyone who worked here. But their faces are all wrong." The machine screamed, actually screamed, like metal tearing. The sensors sparked against my skin and I jerked back, breaking the connection. The lights in the room flashed once, twice, then settled into that familiar nauseating flicker. Dr. Chen was breathing hard, her composed mask completely gone. "Mr. Hayes, I need you to listen very carefully. The machine has identified you as what we call a temporal anomaly. You're not seeing the future. You're seeing futures, plural, probability streams that haven't been locked into place yet." "I don't understand." "Think of time like a river," she said, disconnecting the sensors with shaking hands. "Most people float along, experiencing it linearly, but some people can feel the currents, the eddies and whirlpools where different streams might converge or diverge. The machine was designed to detect deception by reading micro-changes in physiology, but with you, it's reading micro-changes in causality itself." My skin still burned where the sensors had been. "So what does that mean?" "It means," Dr. Chen said, packing up her equipment with quick, efficient movements, "that every decision you make, every action you take, ripples forward in ways that affect probability. And somehow, some part of you is aware of those ripples." The machine amplified that awareness. She paused at the door, looking back at me with those dark, knowing eyes. "Be very careful, Mr. Hayes. Knowledge of the future, even potential futures, is a dangerous thing. It can create paradoxes, self-fulfilling prophecies. Or worse, it can attract the attention of things that exist outside normal temporal flow." Then she was gone, leaving me alone in conference room B with its flickering lights and the lingering smell of burnt electronics. I stumbled out of the conference room, my legs unsteady. The hallway stretched before me, familiar yet suddenly alien, because now I could see them. Faint shimmers in the air, like heat mirages on hot asphalt. Probability streams, Dr. Chen had called them. Potential futures bleeding into the present. Janet was waiting by my desk, her expression unreadable. "How did it go?" I opened my mouth to answer, but behind her, I saw shadows. Versions of her that weren't quite there. In one, she wore a prison jumpsuit. In another, she was accepting an award. In yet another, she simply wasn't. "Fine," I managed. "Just fine." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Good, back to work then." But work was impossible. Every spreadsheet, every email, every mundane task was overlaid with visions of what might be. I saw system crashes that hadn't happened yet, noticed typos in documents that would be written next week, felt the weight of decisions that hadn't been made. By lunch, I was exhausted. I fled to my car, driving aimlessly through Seattle's rain-slicked streets. But the visions followed me. At every intersection, I saw the ghosts of accidents that might occur. Every pedestrian trailed possibilities, some reaching their destinations, others not. I pulled over at a Starbucks on Pine Street, desperate for normalcy. The barista, a young woman with purple hair and a nose ring, smiled as she took my order. "Rough day?" You could say that. As she made my coffee, I watched the probability streams swirl around her. In most futures, she finished her shift without incident, but in one, just one. A man in a ski mask entered the shop at 2:47 p.m. I glanced at my watch. 2:32 p.m. "Hey," I said, my voice too loud. You should take your break early today." She looked at me strangely. "My break's not for another hour." "Please," I said, not caring how I sounded. "Just trust me on this. Take your break now. Go in the back. Stay there until 3. Something in my expression must have convinced her, because she called to her manager about needing to step away. She disappeared into the back room at 2:35. At 2:47, nothing happened. The door chimed as customers came and went. No ski mask, no robbery. Had I changed the future, or had I simply seen a possibility that was never going to occur? I left without drinking my coffee. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, the visions intensified. I saw my apartment in countless states, sometimes tidy, sometimes ransacked, once filled with people I didn't recognize celebrating a birthday party for someone I'd never met. Tuesday morning came like a hangover. I called in sick, which wasn't entirely a lie, but staying home was worse. The visions were stronger in familiar spaces, as if the probability streams were denser around the patterns of daily life. By Wednesday, I was back at work, hollow-eyed and jumpy. My coworkers gave me a wide berth. Who could blame them? I flinched at sounds that hadn't happened yet, responded to questions no one had asked, reached for phones before they rang. That's when I first saw Sarah Martinez. She was in the lobby, filling out paperwork. Dark hair, professional attire, nervous energy of someone starting a new job. But around her, the probability streams were different. Darker. They coiled like smoke, all leading to the same moment, November 15th. I must have been staring because she looked up and caught my eye. Smiled uncertainly. I turned away, bile rising in my throat. The next few days blurred together. Sarah started on Thursday, just as I'd seen. 3rd floor, marketing department. Every time I passed her desk, the visions grew stronger. The fire, the smoke, her voice calling for help that wouldn't come in time. I tried to focus on my work, but how could I? How do you concentrate on quarterly reports when you can see the building burning? How do you sit through meetings when you know that in 3 weeks the conference room will be full of ash? Friday afternoon, Dr. Chen called my personal cell. I hadn't given her the number. "Mr. Hayes," she said without preamble. "We need to talk, not over the phone. Can you meet me tonight?" We met at a 24-hour diner in Ballard. She looked different out of her professional attire. Younger, more vulnerable. The probability streams around her were strange, muted, as if she existed partially outside their flow. "You're struggling," she said. It wasn't a question. I can't turn it off. I gripped my coffee mug like a lifeline. The visions, they're getting stronger. She nodded. That's normal. The machine didn't give you the sight. You always had it. The machine just removed the barriers your mind had built to protect itself. Can you put them back? No. Her voice was gentle but firm. Once the door is open, it can't be closed, but you can learn to live with it, to use it. Use it? I laughed bitterly. I'm seeing a woman die in 3 weeks and I can't do anything about it. Dr. Chen stirred her tea slowly. How do you know you can't? You said it yourself. Trying to change things might cause them. I said you can't change it, but you can navigate it. There's a difference. She reached into her bag, pulled out a worn notebook. This belonged to the first person we tested, the first one who showed the anomaly. He kept notes, observations, patterns he noticed in the streams. I flipped through the pages, cramped handwriting, diagrams that hurt to look at, dates and times and cryptic warnings. What happened to him? He learned to ride the streams, to find the paths where things worked out best. Not perfect. That's impossible. But better. She paused. He saved 43 people over the course of 10 years. People whose deaths he'd seen in the streams. How? By understanding that the future isn't fixed, but it has momentum. You can't stop a river, but you can dig channels. Redirect the flow. She tapped the notebook. Study this. Learn the patterns. November 15th is coming, whether you're ready or not. I spent the weekend poring over the notebook. The writer, someone named David Morse, had developed a complex system for categorizing probability streams. Fixed points that couldn't be changed. Fluid events that could be influenced. Cascade moments where small actions created large ripples. According to his notes, deaths were rarely fixed points. They were usually the result of cascading probabilities, a series of small events that built toward tragedy. Change enough small things, and the big thing might shift. Monday morning, I went to work with new purpose. I couldn't stop November 15th, but maybe I could reshape it. I started small, reported a flickering light in the third-floor break room, mentioned to maintenance that the coffee maker was making strange sounds, suggested to Janet that we should review our fire evacuation procedures, just to be thorough. Each action created ripples. I watched the probability streams shift and flow, saw new futures forming. In some, the fire still happened, but everyone evacuated safely. In others, it was discovered before it could spread. In a few, it never started at all, but Sarah Martinez still died in too many of them. I needed to understand why. What made her death so persistent across the streams? I started watching her, not in a creepy way, but observing the probability currents around her. They were complex, tangled with other streams in ways I couldn't decipher. Tuesday afternoon, I orchestrated a chance meeting by the elevators. "You're new, right?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "I'm Marcus, IT department." "Sarah," she said, shaking my hand. Her touch sent visions cascading through my mind. A childhood in Phoenix, a mother with cancer, a scholarship to UW, dreams of opening her own design firm. "How are you settling in?" "Good," she said, but I could see the lie in the probability streams. She was struggling, overwhelmed by the new job, worried about making rent, calling her sick mother every night. Everyone's been really welcoming. We chatted for a few minutes. Normal small talk, but I was really studying the currents around her. There was something there, a knot in the streams that I couldn't untangle. Something that made her important to the flow of events in ways I didn't understand. That night, I had the dream. Not a vision of probability, but an actual dream. I was standing in the burned-out office building, months after the fire, but I wasn't alone. Sarah was there, translucent, caught between states. "You're trying to save me," she said, her voice echoing. "But what if I'm not the one who needs saving?" I woke with a gasp. Dr. Chen's words echoing in my mind. The machine had warned about attracting the attention of things outside normal temporal flow. What if Sarah wasn't just a victim? What if she was like me, aware of the streams but in a different way? Wednesday, I watched her more carefully. Saw how she paused sometimes, head tilted as if listening to something. How she avoided certain areas of the office without seeming to realize it. How the probability streams bent around her in ways that suggested influence. Thursday evening, working late, I found her in the third-floor break room. She was staring at the coffee maker, the same one I'd reported for making strange noises. "Weird thing," she said without looking at me. "I keep feeling like I should unplug this, like it's important somehow." My heart raced. "Then maybe you should." She turned to me, and for a moment her eyes were ancient. "Do you ever feel like you're living the same day over and over? Like you've done all this before?" "Yes," I admitted. "The test," she said quietly. "You took their test. The machine that sees tomorrow." I nodded, unable to speak. "I took it too," she continued. "Not here. My last job. Different company, same machine. It told them I failed, that I was deceptive. But that wasn't true. It couldn't read me properly because I was already reading it." She unplugged the coffee maker with decisive movements. "I've been trying to figure out why I'm here, why I took this job when every instinct screamed danger. Now I think I know." She looked at me directly. "We're supposed to meet, you and me, the two people who can see the streams. But the fire, I see you dying in the fire." Sarah smiled sadly. "You see one of me dying, but there are others. Versions across the probability streams. We're not like normal people anymore, Marcus. We exist in multiple states simultaneously. Part of us dies in every possible future. The question is, which part survives?" Over the next days, Sarah and I worked together, comparing what we saw in the streams. She experienced them differently than I did. Where I saw visions, she felt pulls, instincts that guided her toward certain choices. Together, we began mapping the probabilities around November 15th. The fire, we discovered, wasn't random. In the streams where it happened, it was always connected to a specific sequence of events. A maintenance request ignored, a safety inspection postponed, a particular combination of electrical loads at a precise moment. But more importantly, we found the cascade point. 11:43 a.m. on November 15th, a moment when multiple probability streams converged. If we could navigate that moment correctly, we could shift the entire flow of events. The weekend before November 15th, I met with Dr. Chen again. Told her about Sarah, about what we'd discovered. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned with each word. "Two anomalies in the same location," she murmured. "This is unprecedented. The probability distortions must be enormous. Is that bad? I don't know. We're in uncharted territory." She pulled out her tablet, showed me readings I couldn't understand. "The streams around your building are becoming increasingly unstable. It's possible that the fire isn't a natural event at all, but a probability correction. Reality trying to resolve the paradox of two temporal anomalies occupying the same space. So, we're causing the fire? Just by existing? Not causing, attracting, like lightning to a rod." She leaned forward intently. "Mr. Hayes, what I'm about to suggest is highly irregular. But given the circumstances, have you considered leaving? Both of you? Simply not being in the building on November 15th? I had considered it. Sarah and I both had. But every time we looked at that possibility, the streams showed worse outcomes. The fire spreading beyond the third floor. More deaths. Greater destruction. "We have to be there," I said. "We're part of the solution, not the problem." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "Then God help you both," because you're about to navigate probability streams that no human has ever attempted to traverse. The Institute will be monitoring. If things go badly, you'll learn from our mistakes, I finished. That's a cold way to put it. But yes, Monday, November 13th. The air in the office felt electric, charged with potential. Sarah and I had spent the weekend preparing, studying the probability streams, identifying key moments where small actions could create large changes. We'd developed a plan, not to prevent the fire, it seemed impossible, but to ensure everyone survived it. A series of carefully timed interventions that would funnel the probability streams toward the best possible outcome. Tuesday morning, I arrived early. Started implementing the first changes. A cup of coffee spilled on crucial paperwork, delaying a meeting that would have put key people in dangerous locations. An elevator malfunction that forced people to use the stairs, familiarizing them with escape routes. Sarah worked her own subtle manipulations. Conversations that kept people away from danger zones. Suggestions that led to impromptu fire drills. Small touches that shifted probability inch by inch. But the streams fought back. For every change we made, reality seemed to push harder toward disaster. By Tuesday evening, we were exhausted, and the visions were showing worse outcomes than before. "Maybe we're doing this wrong," Sarah said, slumped in the break room. "Maybe we're not supposed to fight it." Then what? She was quiet for a moment, then looked at me with those strange, ancient eyes. What if the fire is inevitable because it needs to happen? What if it's not about preventing it, but about being in the right place when it does? That night, I dreamt of David Morse, the first anomaly. He stood in a burning building, not fleeing but walking calmly through the flames. They parted around him like water, and in his wake, people found safe passage. Wednesday morning, November 15th. I arrived to find Sarah already there, standing in the third-floor break room. The coffee maker was plugged in, humming with malevolent potential. "I understand now," she said. "The fire isn't the disaster, it's the catalyst. It's going to reveal something, change something. We're not here to stop it, we're here to guide it." The morning proceeded with terrible normalcy. I watched the clock, saw probability streams condensing, flowing toward that crucial moment. 11:43 a.m. At 11:30, Sarah and I positioned ourselves. She stayed on the third floor, near the break room. I went to the stairwell, the nexus point between floors. We'd mapped the probability streams, knew where people would be, how they'd react. 11:40. The air tasted of copper and ozone. 11:42. The lights flickered. Just once. A warning. 11:43. The coffee maker sparked. What happened next occurred both in seconds and hours. Time fractured along probability lines, and I experienced multiple versions simultaneously. In one stream, I pulled the fire alarm immediately. People evacuated in orderly fashion, but Sarah was trapped by the flames, just as I'd first seen. In another, I ran to the break room, tried to stop the fire at its source. The explosion killed us both. In a third, I did nothing. The fire spread unopposed. Dozens died. But there was a fourth stream, a narrow path through the probabilities. I saw it clearly now, understood what David Morse had discovered. We couldn't change events, but we could experience them differently. Navigate them from outside linear time. I stepped into the probability stream. The world shifted. I was in the stairwell, but also on every floor simultaneously. I existed in multiple states, present wherever I was needed. My voice echoed across realities, guiding people to safety. My hands opened doors that were locked in some timelines, cleared paths that were blocked in others. Sarah was doing the same. I felt her presence spreading through the building's probability matrix, shepherding people away from danger, creating pockets of safety in the chaos. The fire raged, but we flowed around it, through it, beyond it. We were conductors orchestrating an evacuation across multiple timelines, ensuring that every possible version of every person found their way to safety. I saw Janet in one timeline, trapped by fallen debris. Shifted probability to ensure someone was there to help her. Saw Thompson take a wrong turn. Nudged reality so he heard someone calling from the right direction. Time snapped back together. I was in the stairwell, gasping, smoke-filled air burning my lungs. The building was evacuating. I could hear sirens approaching. I stumbled outside, found Sarah at the assembly point. She was covered in soot, but her eyes were bright with impossible knowledge. "Did we do it?" I asked. She nodded toward the building where people were still streaming out. Everyone, every single person who'd been in the building was accounted for. Even Williams, who'd disappeared after his test, was somehow there, looking dazed but unharmed. The building burned. 3 floors were destroyed. Millions in damage, but 0 casualties. The investigators would call it miraculous. They had no idea how miraculous. In the weeks that followed, Temporal Securities Inc. quietly pulled their machines from service. Too many anomalies were being detected. Too many people were experiencing temporal displacement events. The technology was deemed too dangerous for continued use, but it was too late for people like Sarah and me. We'd been changed, made aware of the streams. We couldn't go back to normal lives, pretending tomorrow was a mystery. Dr. Chen's institute became our new home. We learned there were dozens of us around the world, people touched by the machines, living between probabilities. We formed a loose network, sharing information, warning each other about cascade points and probability storms. Sarah and I became partners in a way that transcended normal relationships. We existed partially in each other's probability streams, aware of every possible future we might share. It was intimate and terrifying and wonderful, but the visions never stopped. If anything, they grew stronger. I saw wars that might happen, disasters that could be mitigated, individual tragedies that beckoned for intervention. The weight of infinite futures pressed down on every moment. That's why I'm sharing this story now, because last week I saw a new probability stream forming. A strong one. In 6 months, someone will reinvent the technology. Not a company this time, but an individual. A brilliant programmer who stumbles upon the same principles Temporal Securities discovered. But this time they won't keep it secret. They'll open source it. Put it on the internet, make it available to anyone with a computer and basic hardware. Imagine 7 billion people suddenly able to see their possible futures. The cascade effects, the paradoxes, the complete breakdown of linear causality. I've seen that world in my visions, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not chaos. It's not destruction. It's something else entirely, something I don't have words for yet. Humanity evolved, transformed, no longer bound by the illusion of single timeline existence. It's beautiful and terrifying and completely beyond current comprehension. But between now and then there will be a period of adjustment. Confusion. Fear. People will need guides. Those of us who've learned to navigate the streams will need to help others find their way. So if you're listening to this, if you've noticed your dreams coming true, if you've felt that tingle at the base of your skull when reality shifts, you're not going crazy. You're not alone. You're just early. The machines are coming. The sight is spreading. And tomorrow is not a single path, but an infinite garden of forking possibilities. Welcome to the new world. Try not to get lost in the streams. And hey, if this story kept you awake, if you're lying there wondering about your own temporal sensitivity, leave a comment below. Share your experiences. Subscribe for updates on navigating probability streams. Because whether we're ready or not, the future is becoming plural, and we're all going to need each other to find our way through what's coming. sweet dreams, in whichever timeline you choose to experience them.
Story number 2.
They started showing up 3 days before my grandmother died. I remember standing in her driveway in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, watching those massive black birds circle her little white house like they were drawing invisible rings in the sky. 7 of them. Always 7. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my coffee mug, and when it shattered on the concrete, not a single vulture flinched. They just kept circling, circling, circling. Now before you click away thinking this is just another creepy story, let me tell you something. What I'm about to share happened to me, to my family, and once you know what to look for, you might start seeing them too. The vultures that know, the vultures that wait, the vultures that circle houses before death comes knocking. So, grab your blanket, turn down your lights, and whatever you do, don't look out your window. Not yet. The story begins now. My name is Sarah Chen, and I work as a hospice nurse in Des Moines. I've been around death for 12 years now, seen it come gentle like sleep, seen it fight tooth and nail, seen it surprise everyone including me, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I learned about the vultures. It started last October. I was visiting my grandmother in Cedar Rapids, about 2 hours north of where I lived. Grandma Rose had been doing okay for 87. Still made her famous apple pie every Sunday, still beat everyone at Scrabble, still insisted on mowing her own lawn even though Dad begged her to let him hire someone. I pulled into her driveway around noon that Thursday. The first thing I noticed was the smell. This thick, musty odor hanging in the air like wet newspapers left in the sun too long. The second thing I noticed were the birds. 7 turkey vultures perched on her roof, just sitting there, not moving, not making a sound. Their red, wrinkled heads all turned toward her bedroom window. "Gross," I muttered, grabbing my overnight bag from the trunk. I'd seen plenty of vultures before. They're everywhere in Iowa, cleaning up roadkill, hanging around farms, but I'd never seen them just sitting on someone's house like that, especially not in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I knocked on Grandma's door. "It's me, Grandma, Sarah." The door opened, and there she was, 5 feet of pure, stubborn German stock, wearing her favorite purple sweater even though it was 70 degrees out. "Sarah Bear!" She pulled me into a hug that smelled like lavender and mothballs. Come in, I made cookies." Everything seemed normal inside. Her little living room with the floral couch, the grandfather clock that chimed 15 minutes late, the wall of family photos where my dead grandpa still smiled from behind dusty glass. But something felt off, like the air was too thick, like the shadows were too dark. "Grandma," I set my bag down, "you feeling okay?" "Oh, I'm fine. Just a little tired." She waved her hand dismissively. "Been having the strangest dreams, though." "Dreams?" She nodded, leading me to the kitchen. "About birds, big black birds sitting on my chest, pressing down, making it hard to breathe." She shook her head. "Silly, right?" My pulse quickened. In hospice, we learn to recognize certain signs. Dreams about pressure on the chest, that drowning feeling. Those weren't just dreams. But Grandma looked fine. Her color was good. Her breathing was steady. "Maybe we should call Dr. Morrison," I suggested. "Just to check." "Nonsense." She pushed a plate of snickerdoodles toward me. "I'm not wasting money on that quack just because of some dreams. Now, tell me about work. How are your patients?" We spent the afternoon talking, playing cards, pretending everything was normal. But I kept glancing out the window. Those vultures hadn't moved, not once. As the sun started setting, casting long shadows across her lawn, I counted them again. Still 7. That night I barely slept. Grandma's guest room was right next to hers, and I could hear her breathing through the thin walls. Sometimes it would catch, just for a second, and I'd bolt upright, listening. But then it would steady out again. Around 3 a.m. I heard something else. A soft thump on the roof. Then another, then another. I crept to the window and pulled back the curtain. More vultures, dozens of them now, all lined up on the roof like soldiers, all facing her bedroom. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone to take a picture, but the screen stayed black. Dead battery, which was impossible. I charged it before bed. I plugged it in and waited, watching those birds through the window. They didn't move like normal birds. No preening, no shuffling, no sound, just stillness, like they were waiting for something. When my phone finally turned on, I had 17 missed calls, all from my dad. "Sarah!" His voice was panicked when I called back. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. I had this dream about Mom, about birds. Dad." My throat felt dry. "I'm at Grandma's. There are vultures everywhere." Silence, then, "Get her out of there." "What? Dad, it's 3 in the morning. Get her out of there now." But it was too late. The sound that came from Grandma's room wasn't quite a scream. It was more like air escaping, like something deflating. I burst through her door to find her sitting up in bed, eyes wide, pointing at the window. A vulture sat on the windowsill, inside the room. The window was closed. "How?" I started to say, but then I saw the others. 3 more vultures perched on her dresser, 2 on the headboard, 1 at the foot of her bed. They weren't moving, weren't breathing, weren't real. No, they were shadows. Vulture-shaped shadows that shouldn't exist because there was nothing casting them. "Sarah," Grandma's voice was thin as paper. "They've been coming closer every night, through the walls, through the dreams. They're here for me." I grabbed her hand. It was ice cold. No, we're getting you to the hospital right now." But she shook her head. "It's too late, sweetheart. I've known for 3 days, since they first circled the house." She squeezed my hand weakly. "They always know. The vultures always know." Grandma died at 4:17 a.m., not in the hospital, not in an ambulance. Right there in her bed, while I held her hand and those shadow vultures watched from every corner of the room. The moment her breathing stopped, they vanished, like smoke, like they were never there at all. The real vultures outside took off at the exact same moment. I heard their wings, hundreds of wings, beating against the pre-dawn darkness. By the time the paramedics arrived, there wasn't a bird in sight. The official cause of death was a massive heart attack. Could have happened any time, the coroner said. No way to predict these things. But I knew better. The vultures had predicted it. 3 days in advance. After the funeral, I tried to forget, threw myself into work, into my patients, into anything that would keep my mind off those circling shadows. But once you've seen something like that, once you know what to look for, you can't unsee it. 2 weeks later, I was doing my rounds at Mercy Hospice when I saw them again. 7 vultures circling the facility. My blood ran cold. "Martha," I grabbed my colleague in the hallway. "Do you see those birds?" She glanced out the window. "What birds?" I looked again, still there, still circling. "The vultures, right there." Martha squinted. Wait. Oh yeah, way up there. So what? We get vultures all the time." But these weren't just passing through, these were circling, specifically, deliberately. "Which room is directly below them?" I asked. Martha pulled out her tablet. "Let's see, that would be room 12, Mr. Henderson." Mr. Henderson, 93 years old, terminal cancer, but stable. His doctors had given him at least another month. I spent the next 3 days watching. The vultures never left. They circled in shifts, 7 at a time, always 7, like they were taking turns, and Mr. Henderson started having the dreams. "Black birds on my chest," he told me, his voice barely a whisper. "Can't breathe, can't move. They're so heavy, Sarah." I wanted to tell him it was just a dream, just his mind processing fear, but I couldn't lie to a dying man. "I see them too," I said. His eyes widened. "You do?" I nodded. "They're circling outside. Been there for 3 days. He was quiet for a long moment, then, "My grandmother used to tell stories about the death birds, said they could smell it coming, like rain before a storm. Said if you saw them circle your house 3 times, you had 3 days to get your affairs in order." "Did you?" I asked. "Get your affairs in order?" He smiled weakly. 50 years ago. Been ready for a long time." He patted my hand. "Don't look so scared, dear. We all have our time. At least I got a warning." Mr. Henderson died that night. Peacefully. His family was there, holding his hand, telling him they loved him. And the moment his heart stopped, I heard wings outside the window. After that, I started keeping a journal. Every time I saw the vultures circle, I wrote it down. The pattern was always the same. Day 1, 7 vultures appear. They circle clockwise. The person starts having dreams. Day 2, more vultures join. The circles get tighter. The dreams get worse. Day 3, the vultures land. The shadows appear. Death arrives before dawn. Always 3 days. Always 7 vultures to start. Always death at the end. I tried telling people. My supervisor, my friends, even my dad. They all said the same thing. Confirmation bias. You're seeing patterns that aren't there. Vultures circle all the time, but I knew what I was seeing. And once I started looking, really looking, I saw them everywhere, circling the retirement home on Maple Street. Mrs. Vance stroke, October 23rd. Circling the Anderson farm out on Route 69. Jim Anderson, tractor accident, November 2nd. Circling the elementary school. That one made me call in sick. I couldn't handle the thought of a child, but the next day I learned it was the janitor. Heart attack in the supply closet. Been dead for hours before anyone found him. 3 days, every time. 3 days of warning that no one else could see. By December, I'd documented 47 cases. 47 times the vultures had circled. 47 deaths exactly 3 days later. And I was starting to notice something else. The vultures weren't just random. They were specific, deliberate, like they were following rules. I discovered the first rule by accident. It was a Tuesday night in January. I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour shift when I saw them. 7 vultures circling the house across the street. The Johnsons, Mike and Carol, nice couple in their 50s, always brought my mail when I was working late. My hands shook as I wrote it in my journal. Day 1, 7 vultures, clockwise circles. But I couldn't just watch it happen again. Not to them. I marched across the street and knocked on their door. Mike answered in his Hawkeye sweatshirt, beer in hand. "Sarah, what's up? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Mike, how do you tell someone they have 3 days to live? Are you feeling okay? You and Carol?" He laughed. "Never better. Why?" "Just promise me something. If you start feeling sick, any chest pain, any trouble breathing, you call 911 immediately. Promise me." His smile faded. "Sarah, you're scaring me. What's going on?" I wanted to tell him about the vultures, but I could see it in his eyes, that look people get when they think you're crazy. So I made something up about a bad flu going around. Told him to be careful. That night, I sat by my window and watched those vultures circle. Round and round and round. and I made a decision. If death was coming for the Johnsons, I was going to stop it. The next morning, day 2, I called in sick and parked myself on their porch with a medical bag. "Sarah, this is ridiculous," Carol said, bringing me coffee. "We're fine. Humor me," I said. "Just for today." They thought I'd lost it, but they let me stay. Let me check their vitals every hour. Let me follow them around with my stethoscope like a worried mother hen. Everything was normal, blood pressure fine, hearts beating steady, no symptoms at all. But that night, Carol had the dream. "Black birds," she whispered to Mike, not knowing I was listening through the window. Sitting on my chest. Couldn't breathe. Day 3 came. The vultures landed on their roof before dawn. I was ready. The moment I saw those shadows start to form inside the house, those impossible vulture shapes sliding through the walls, I acted, burst through their door with my medical bag, found Carol collapsed in the kitchen, clutching her chest. "Call 911, I screamed at Mike, already starting CPR. I kept her heart beating, kept oxygen flowing to her brain, kept death at bay until the paramedics arrived. They shocked her twice in the ambulance, got her to the hospital just in time. Massive heart attack, the kind that kills in minutes. But she survived. And that's when I learned the first rule. The vultures are never wrong about death coming. But sometimes, if you're ready, you can cheat it. Carol spent 3 weeks in the hospital, had triple bypass surgery, but she lived. And the vultures, they didn't come back for her. It was like she'd paid her debt, beaten the system, but the universe, or whatever controls the vultures, doesn't like being cheated. 2 months later, I saw them again. 7 vultures, circling, but not over someone else's house, over mine. I stood in my driveway looking up at those dark shapes against the gray March sky. My coffee mug slipped from numb fingers, shattered on the concrete, and not a single vulture flinched. They just kept circling, circling, circling. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm 34, I'm healthy. I just had a checkup." But the vultures don't care about your age, don't care about your health. They only care about one thing, the schedule. That night, I had the dream. Black wings, crushing weight. The smell of death so strong I woke up gagging. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. And in the toilet water, I swear I saw feathers. Black feathers that dissolved the moment I blinked. I called my dad. "The vultures are here." Silence, then, "How long?" "This is day 1. I'm coming over." "Dad, no, I'm coming over." He spent the next 2 days with me. We went through everything. Every pill in my medicine cabinet. Every corner of my house looking for gas leaks or carbon monoxide. Had my heart checked, brain scanned, blood tested. Nothing. I was perfectly healthy. But the vultures kept circling. On the morning of day 3, I sat in my living room with Dad, waiting. We'd called 911 preemptively, had an ambulance on standby, had every medical device I owned within reach. "Maybe we beat it," Dad said, "like you did with Carol." But I knew better. The shadows were already forming. Vulture shapes in the corners, on the walls, behind the furniture. More than I'd ever seen before. "Dad," I grabbed his hand. "Whatever happens, that's when I saw it." Him. A man standing in my hallway, tall, thin, wearing a black coat that seemed to move like feathers. Dad couldn't see him. I could tell by the way his eyes looked right through the figure. But I could see him clear as day. The man smiled. His teeth were too white, too sharp. "Sarah Chen, you've been interfering with my birds. Who are you?" Dad squeezed my hand. "Sarah, who are you talking to?" The man stepped closer. With each step, the vulture shadows grew darker, larger. "I have many names, but you can call me what I am, a collector. And you?" He tilted his head. "You've been disrupting my collection schedule." Carol wasn't supposed to die. Everyone is supposed to die, Sarah. The birds don't choose. They simply announce. 3 days' notice, it's more than most get. Why 3 days? He shrugged. Professional courtesy. Enough time to say goodbye, not enough time to run. His smile widened. But you had to play hero. Save someone marked for collection. Do you know what that does to the system? I shook my head. It creates a debt. A life saved is a life owed. Balance must be maintained. He gestured to the shadows. So here we are, on your day 3. Take me then, I said. If that's what it takes. He laughed. It sounded like wings beating. Oh, Sarah, I'm not here to take you. Death isn't cruel, it's just punctual. He checked what looked like a pocket watch made of bone. You have 17 minutes. Heart arrhythmia. Quick, painless, unless you take the job. What job? I asked, my voice barely steady. The collector pulled out a leather journal. My journal. The one I'd been keeping about the vultures. But older. Worn. Like it had aged decades and seconds. You've been watching my birds. Documenting their work. 47 cases in 6 months. Impressive. He flipped through pages I didn't remember writing. You saved Carol Johnson. Tried to save others. Failed, mostly. But tried. That's what matters. I don't understand. Dad was shaking me now. Sarah, stay with me. I could feel it starting, the flutter in my chest, the skipped beats, my heart starting its final countdown. The vultures need a watcher, the collector continued. Someone to observe, to record, to maintain the balance. Someone who understands the importance of 3 days' notice. Why 3 days? I asked again, gasping now. Because that's how long a soul needs to prepare. Day 1, denial. Day 2, anger. Day 3, acceptance. Without the warning, they leave, unsettled, confused, lost. He leaned closer. You've seen it, haven't you? The peace in the ones who knew. Mr. Henderson, your grandmother, they were ready. My vision was tunneling. Dad was crying. I could hear sirens outside. If I take the job, what happens? You live, you watch, you record, and sometimes, very rarely, when the balance allows, you interfere. He held out his hand. But once you take it, you can never stop seeing them, never stop knowing. 3 days before every death, you'll know. Everyone? Everyone you're near. Family, friends, strangers on the street. You'll see the vultures circle. You'll count the days. You'll carry the weight of knowing. My heart stopped. For one perfect moment, I felt nothing. No pain, no fear. Just quiet, like floating in dark water. Then the collector's hand touched mine, and I gasped back to life. The paramedics burst through the door just as my heart started beating again. They found a pulse, found breath, found me very much alive despite the flat line on their monitors. Miracle, they said. Lucky, they said. But I knew better. The collector was gone, the shadows were gone. But the journal remained. My journal. Now leather-bound and heavy with pages I hadn't written yet. They kept me in the hospital for a week, ran every test imaginable. Found nothing wrong. My heart was perfect. Better than perfect. Like it had been upgraded. Dad stayed with me the whole time. What happened in that house, Sarah? You were talking to someone I couldn't see. I wanted to tell him, but when I opened my mouth, the words wouldn't come. Some secrets I learned come with their own silence. I went back to work a month later. Same hospice, same patients. But now, I could see so much more. The vultures were everywhere, not just circling houses, circling hospital rooms, nursing homes, cars on the highway, sometimes just a glimpse, a future circle not yet formed. Other times, the full 7, always 7 to start. And I wrote it all down, every sighting, every pattern, every death. But now I understood the rules. Rule 1, the vultures are never wrong, but death can sometimes be delayed. Rule 2, a life saved creates a debt. Balance must be maintained. Rule 3, the watcher can interfere only when the balance allows. Rule 4, 3 days' notice is a mercy, not a curse. Rule 5, some deaths cannot be prevented, only prepared for. I learned to read the subtleties. A tight circle meant sudden death, heart attack, stroke, accident. A wide circle meant slow decline, cancer, organ failure. Counterclockwise meant peaceful, clockwise meant struggle. And sometimes, very rarely, the circles would break, like with Jamie Parker. 8 years old. The vultures circled her house for 2 days. On day 3, I was there. Saw her choke on a grape. Was ready. Heimlich maneuver. Grape flew out. Vultures scattered. Debt paid from Carol Johnson? Maybe. The collector never said. But the journal recorded it all the same. Now I watch. I wait. I write. And yes, I see them now. Circling above houses in your neighborhood. Maybe even yours. Don't look up. Don't count them, because once you start seeing the vultures, you can't stop. They're always there, always watching, always knowing. 3 days. That's all any of us get. 3 days warning from the black wings that circle before the end. Most people never see them, never know they're there. But if you start having dreams about black birds on your chest, if you wake up and count 7 shadows on your wall, if you hear wings where there should be silence, count the days, say your goodbyes. And remember, the vultures aren't cruel. They're just punctual. They don't choose who dies. They just announce the schedule. Death isn't the enemy. Ignorance is. The not knowing. The sudden loss. The words left unsaid. 3 days is a gift. Use it wisely. And if you see me in your hospital room, notebook in hand, watching the window, know that I'm there for a reason. Know that I see them too. The vultures that circle, the shadows that gather. Know that you're not alone. We never are. Not in the end. The vultures make sure of that. But here's what haunts me most. What keeps me awake at night. What the collector didn't tell me about this job. Last week, I walked past a mirror in the hospital hallway, and for just a moment, just a split second, I saw them, 7 vultures, circling above my own reflection. The journal has blank pages left, but not many. And when the last page is filled, when the final death is recorded, I wonder if the vultures will circle for me, or if watchers simply fade away. I guess I'll find out. 3 days before I do. But wait, there's something else. Something I haven't told anyone, not even written in the journal yet. Yesterday, I saw something new, something that made my blood run cold. A house on Willow Street, big blue Victorian, the Brennan family, nice people, 3 kids, and above their house, not 7 vultures. 70, maybe more, so many I couldn't count. They weren't just circling, they were swarming, like a tornado of black wings, like nothing I'd ever seen before. I checked the journal, flipped through all the pages, even the ones I haven't written yet. Nothing. No record of anything like this. 70 vultures, not 7. What does that mean? What's coming? I called in sick today, parked across from the Brennan house, watching. Waiting. The vultures are still there, still swarming, and it's only day 1. If 7 vultures mean 1 death, what do 70 mean? I think I'm about to find out, and I'm terrified that some deaths some events, are too big for even a watcher to stop. The Brennans don't know, can't see them. They're having a barbecue tomorrow. Invited the whole neighborhood, all those people, all those families. But here's what scares me most. Remember when I said the collector gave me rules? Well, there was one more. One I didn't want to believe. One I hoped I'd never have to share. Rule 6. When the vultures multiply by 10, the debt comes due. I saved Carol Johnson. The universe demanded balance. One life saved. But what if the interest has been building? What if every interference and every saved life adds to a cosmic debt that eventually must be paid? And what if payment isn't one life for one life? What if it's more? I've saved 13 people in the 2 years since I became a watcher. 13 souls pulled back from the edge. 13 debts to the universe. 70 vultures, 10 times 7. The math is terrifying. Tomorrow is the barbecue. Day 2. The Brennans invited everyone. The Johnsons, the Martinez family, the elderly Robinsons, even the new family that just moved in. The ones with the baby. I've been sitting here all night, watching those vultures swarm, trying to figure out how to warn them without the words. How to save them without being able to speak. But maybe you can. If you're listening to this, if you live on Willow Street, if you know the Brennans, please don't go to that barbecue, make an excuse, leave town, anything. Because the vultures aren't just circling anymore, they're descending, slowly, like a black cloud falling from the sky. And in my dreams last night, I didn't see birds on my chest. I saw birds on everyone's chest, the whole neighborhood, all at once. The collector appeared for just a moment, just long enough to whisper, "Every system has a breaking point, Sarah. Even mercy. 70 vultures, 2 days left, and a debt that's about to be collected." Sweet dreams, everyone, and remember, if you liked this story, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment about any strange birds you've seen lately. Share this with someone who loves a good scare. And whatever you do, don't look up. Not tonight. Not for 3 days. Story number 3. Listen. I need to tell you something. Something that happened to me 3 weeks ago in my apartment in Portland. And before you click away, before you think this is just another meditation story, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how sometimes when you're alone at night you hear sounds that shouldn't be there? Breathing that isn't yours? Footsteps in rooms you know are empty. Yeah, that's what I thought. See, I used to think meditation was harmless. Just sitting there, breathing, finding your center. What could go wrong, right? But sometimes when you open doors in your mind, other things slip through. So grab your blanket, turn off the lights if you dare. And whatever you do, don't try what I'm about to tell you, because some doors, they're meant to stay closed. The story begins now. My name is Sarah Chen, and 3 weeks ago, I was just another burned-out marketing manager living in a studio apartment in Portland's Pearl District. You know the type? Working 60-hour weeks, surviving on cold brew and anxiety medication, checking emails at 2 a.m. because sleep felt like failure. But let me paint you the real picture, the one I didn't want to admit, even to myself. I was drowning. Every morning, I'd wake up with my heart already racing, like I'd been running marathons in my sleep. The panic attacks started around month 6 at my job. First, just little flutters during important meetings, then full-blown episodes in bathroom stalls, gasping for air while my vision tunneled. I'd started taking the stairs instead of elevators because enclosed spaces made my skin crawl. Even my own apartment felt too small, too close, like the walls were slowly creeping inward. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, kept suggesting meditation apps. Just 10 minutes a day, she'd say, with that patient smile therapists perfect. It's scientifically proven to reduce cortisol levels. But every time I tried Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, my mind would race faster. The silence was too loud. The breathing exercises felt like suffocation. That Tuesday started like any other. Rain tapping against my window, the coffee shop downstairs already brewing their first batch. My neighbor Mike's alarm going off through the thin walls. Normal. Safe, predictable. Except it wasn't normal, was it? Looking back, I can see the signs. The way Mochi had been acting strange for weeks, staring at corners, refusing to sleep in the bedroom. The way my dreams had been wrong. Not nightmares, exactly. Just off. Like watching a movie of my own life, but with small details changed. Different colored walls, rearranged furniture, people with the wrong faces. I was scrolling through my phone during my commute on the Max Blue Line when I saw the ad. MindGate, the meditation app that actually works. The reviews were insane, 5 stars across the board. People claiming it changed their lives, fixed their insomnia, cured their anxiety. But here's what I should have noticed. What I'm only realizing now as I write this with trembling fingers, the reviews weren't just positive. They were identical. Not the words, but the rhythm, the cadence, like they'd all been written by the same person, wearing different faces. Whatever, I muttered, downloading it anyway. What's one more app on my already cluttered phone? The download was instant. Too instant for a full meditation app. No progress bar, no waiting, just there. Like it had been waiting on my phone all along. The interface was different. Instead of the usual calming blues and purples, it was all deep blacks and silvers. The home screen just had one option: begin your journey. No privacy policy, no terms of service, no about page, no free trial, no subscription prompt, just begin. The app felt heavier than it should. Not the file size, I mean literally heavier. My phone seemed to weigh more in my hands, pulling downward like it was made of lead instead of aluminum and glass. I tapped it. "Welcome, Sarah," a voice said through my earbuds. Not synthesized, not robotic. It sounded like someone was actually there, sitting next to me on the train. Warm breath on my ear. The slight, wet sound of lips moving too close to a microphone. "I've been waiting for you." I nearly dropped my phone. The woman across from me looked up from her book, concern creasing her features. Had she heard it too? But her earbuds were in, lost in her own audio world. How did it know my name? I hadn't entered any information, hadn't even agreed to terms of service. Nothing. "Don't be alarmed," the voice continued. Male, maybe mid-30s, with this weird accent I couldn't place. Not quite British, not quite something else. Like someone who'd learned English from old movies. "Your device shared your details, standard permissions. Now, shall we open the first door?" Something about the way he said "door" made my skin prickle. The temperature on the train seemed to drop 10 degrees. The fluorescent lights flickered. Just once, just barely, but I noticed. In the reflection of the window, I saw myself, but for a split second my eyes looked hollow, empty, like someone had scooped out everything behind them. But the train was pulling into my stop, and I had a presentation in 20 minutes, the biggest client pitch of my career. I closed the app, shoved my phone in my pocket, and forgot about it. Until that night. But first, let me tell you about that presentation. Because it matters. Because it was the beginning of everything unraveling. I nailed it. I absolutely destroyed it in the best way possible. Every slide perfect, every transition smooth, every joke landing exactly right. Janet, my boss, the woman who once told me I had adequate potential as a compliment, actually applauded. Our biggest client, Harrison Industries, signed on the spot. "I don't know what's gotten into you, Chen," Marcus whispered as we packed up the conference room. But whatever meditation guru you've been seeing, get me their number. Meditation, right, the app. But here's the weird thing. I felt different all day. Not just confident, lighter. Like I'd been carrying invisible weights for months and someone had cut the straps. Colors seemed brighter. Food tasted better. Even the constant background hum of anxiety, that white noise of worry that had been my companion for years, was quiet. By 6 p.m., I was actually looking forward to going home. When was the last time that had happened? 10:47 p.m. I was lying in bed, laptop still warm on my stomach from finishing another deck. This one, actually optional. Just ideas I'd had during dinner and wanted to capture while they were fresh. My eyes should have burned. My jaw should have ached from clenching. The rain had turned into a full Pacific Northwest downpour, and somewhere in the building, a pipe was making that dripping sound that meant another call to our useless super. But I felt good, energized even, like I'd had the best day of my life and wanted to make it even better. I remembered the app. Might as well, I said to my empty apartment. My cat, Mochi, looked up from her spot on the windowsill, except she wasn't looking at me. She was staring past me, at the corner behind my bed. Her pupils were dilated, tail twitching, not the playful twitch when she saw a bird, the nervous twitch when she sensed something wrong. I turned to look, nothing there, just the corner where I kept my laundry hamper and a stack of books I kept meaning to read. I opened MindGate. This time, there were 3 options. Door 1, release. Door 2, locked. Door 3, locked. The locked doors had countdown timers underneath them. Door 2, 23, 58, 42, 41, 40. Door 3, 167, 58, 42, 41, 40, a week. Door 3 would unlock in exactly a week. I selected door 1. Excellent choice, the voice said, and I could swear I felt breath on my neck. Impossible. My earbuds were in. The sound was coming through my phone. But still, please lie down. Close your eyes. And remember, what happens beyond the door stays beyond the door. Weird phrasing, but whatever. I settled back into my pillows, closed my eyes, and listened. The rain outside seemed to quiet, or maybe my hearing was focusing inward. Breathe in, hold, and release. Feel yourself sinking, deeper and deeper. Good. Now, Sarah, I want you to imagine a long hallway. Can you see it? I could, weirdly vivid actually. Dark wood floors, cream walls, those old-fashioned sconces every few feet casting yellow light. But it wasn't just visual. I could feel the cool air, smell the... Wait, what was that smell? Walk forward. There's a door at the end. Red paint, brass handle. Do you see it? I did. My feet. I could actually feel my feet moving, even though I knew I was lying in bed. The floorboards creaked under my weight. The hallway smelled like my grandmother's house. Lemon polish and something else, something sweet and wrong. Vanilla extract gone rancid. But my grandmother had died when I was 7. I barely remembered her house. So why could I smell her kitchen so clearly? Open the door, Sarah. My hand reached out, turned the handle. It was warm. Warmer than brass should be, almost body temperature. Pushed. And I was somewhere else. Not my bedroom. Not Portland. Not anywhere on Earth, I was suddenly certain. I was standing in a field of tall grass under a sky that was the wrong color. Too purple, with stars that moved like they were breathing. 3 moons hung in the sky, 2 silver and one that looked like it was made of rust. The air tasted like copper pennies and ozone, like the moment before lightning strikes. The grass around my feet wasn't green. It was deep blue, almost navy, and it whispered when the wind moved through it. Not the normal whisper of grass in breeze, Actual whispers. Words I almost understood in a language I'd never heard. "Where am I?" I tried to ask, but my voice came out wrong. Echoey. Like I was speaking from the bottom of a well, or like there were multiple versions of me speaking at once, slightly out of sync. "The first room," the voice said, but now it was coming from everywhere. The grass, the sky, inside my own head, vibrating through my bones. "This is where you leave what you no longer need. Your stress, your anxiety, your fear. Let it flow out of you. Let it seep into the ground." And the weird thing, it was working. I felt lighter. Like someone was literally pulling weight out of my chest. Each breath came easier. The constant knot between my shoulder blades, one I'd carried for so long I'd forgotten it wasn't normal, began to loosen. The purple sky pulsed, and with each pulse, more tension left my body. It was like someone was drawing poison from a wound, the relief so intense it was almost orgasmic. I could feel years of accumulated stress flowing out of me, pooling at my feet, soaking into the alien soil. "Good," the voice whispered, and now it sounded almost hungry. "Very good, but Sarah, nothing is free. What you release here doesn't disappear. It has to go somewhere." The grass around me started to wither, black spots spreading like spilled ink, like the stress and anxiety I was releasing was toxic to this place. The whispers in the wind grew louder, more urgent, almost panicked. The 3 moons above flickered faster, almost frantically. And that's when I heard them. The other voices, faint at first, like a radio station just out of range, but growing clearer. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all whispering the same thing. "Help us, help us, help us." "Who's there?" I called out, spinning in the withering grass. "Who are you?" "Time to return," the voice said urgently, cutting through the chorus of pleas. "Close the door. Now." The grass was dying faster now, spreading outward in concentric circles with me at the center. Whatever I was releasing, whatever this place was taking from me, it was killing everything it touched. And those voices, they were getting closer, more desperate. "Close the door!" I slammed it shut with my mind, felt myself yanked backward through space, and I was back in my bed, gasping, covered in sweat despite my apartment being freezing. My sheets were soaked through, and there was a taste in my mouth like I'd been chewing on pennies. Mochi was at the foot of my bed, back arched, hissing at the corner of my room. The corner where nothing was, where nothing should be. But as I watched, a shadow moved, just a flicker, like something had passed in front of a light source that didn't exist. And for just a moment, just a split second, I could swear I saw the outline of a door. Red paint, brass handle, then nothing. I grabbed my phone to check the time. 11:11 p.m. I'd only been meditating for 24 minutes? It felt like hours. Like I'd lived an entire day in that purple-skied place. A notification popped up from MindGate. Door 2 unlocks in 23, 59, 58, 57, 56. A countdown. And at the bottom of the screen, in small text I hadn't noticed before. 1 of 847 participants currently active. 847? What did that mean? Active in what? I should have deleted the app right then. Should have thrown my phone away, moved apartments, changed my name. But I didn't. Because here's the thing about doors. Once you know they exist, you can't stop thinking about what's behind them. And I felt amazing. For the first time in years, the constant weight on my chest was gone. My hands weren't shaking. The usual spiral of anxiety that kept me up until 3 a.m. Silent. I slept like the dead. I just didn't know that phrase would become so literal. The next day was perfect. That's the only way to describe it. I woke up before my alarm, actually made breakfast instead of grabbing a sad granola bar, and the world looked different. sharper, more vivid, like I'd been living my life through a dirty window and someone had finally cleaned it. But perfect isn't normal, is it? Perfect is suspicious. I should have noticed the little things. How my coffee tasted better than it ever had. But when I checked the bag, it was the same brand I'd been buying for months. How every song on my playlist seemed to hit just right, like they'd been curated specifically for my mood. How strangers on the Macs smiled at me. Not polite nods, but real smiles, like they recognized something in me. At work, I was unstoppable. Ideas flowed like water. Presentations that should have taken me hours to create materialized in minutes, fully formed and brilliant. Janet called me into her office around noon. "Jen," she said, settling behind her desk with that expression she got when she was trying to figure out if she was dealing with a problem or an opportunity. "What's going on with you?" "What do you mean?" "The Harrison account. The Morrison pitch you turned in this morning. It's the best work I've seen from you. Maybe the best work I've seen, period. Marketing Week would publish this stuff." She was right. The Morrison pitch was good. Too good. I remembered writing it, but it felt like watching someone else's hands move across the keyboard. The ideas weren't mine. Or rather, they were mine, but elevated, refined. Like I'd had access to a version of myself that was just better. "I've been meditating," I said, and the words felt strange in my mouth. Like I was reading from a script I'd never seen before. Janet leaned back in her chair. "Meditating, right. Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm putting you on the Peterson account, the big one. Think you can handle it?" The Peterson account. 2 years ago, that would have sent me into a panic spiral. Now, I felt excitement. Pure, clean excitement. Unclouded by doubt or fear. My coworker, Marcus, stopped by my desk around lunch. "You look different," he said, tilting his head like he was examining a painting. "Did you get your hair done?" "Just trying a new meditation app," I laughed. He frowned. "Meditation? You sure? Because you look, I don't know, lighter? Like you lost weight, but not really? And your eyes?" He trailed off, shaking his head. "Never mind, it's probably just the lighting in here." But I knew what he meant. I'd seen it in the bathroom mirror that morning. My reflection looked cleaner, more defined. Like someone had taken a photo of me and adjusted the contrast, making the darks darker and the lights lighter. Lighter. Exactly how I felt. That night, I couldn't wait. 10:47 p.m., same as before. The countdown had reached 0. Door 2 was unlocked. But first, let me tell you about the walk home. Because that's when I first noticed them. The people in the coffee shops and restaurants I passed weren't eating. Not exactly. They had food in front of them, were going through the motions of eating, but their eyes were empty. Distant. Like they were looking at something very far away. And every single one of them, every single one, was holding a phone. "Welcome back, Sarah," the voice said when I opened the app, and I swear it sounded pleased, satisfied, like a cat that had caught something delicious. "Ready to go deeper?" The participant counter now read, 1 of 1,204 participants currently active. Over 1,000 people. All doing this. All opening doors they shouldn't open. Door 2 was blue, navy blue, with a silver handle that felt cold even in my imagination. Colder than metal should be. Cold like space. Cold like the absence of warmth rather than the presence of cold. This time, when I opened it, I was in my childhood bedroom. Everything exactly as I remembered. The glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, my Sailor Moon poster. Even that stupid lava lamp my dad got me for my 13th birthday. But something was off. The proportions were wrong. Like looking at a room through a funhouse mirror, or like someone had built it from a description rather than actually seeing it. "This is where memories live," the voice explained. And now I could place the accent. It was American, but old American, like someone from a 1940s radio show. But memories, they're not always true, are they? They shift, change. Sometimes they belong to someone else entirely. The room flickered. For a second, it wasn't my bedroom anymore. It was somewhere else. Darker, smaller, with water stains on the ceiling and the smell of cigarettes and something worse. Something rotten. The wallpaper was peeling and I could hear arguing through the walls. A man's voice, slurred and angry, a woman crying. "Whose room is this?" I asked, but I was afraid I already knew. Does it matter? Memories are just stories we tell ourselves. And stories can be rewritten. Pictures appeared on the walls. Photos I'd never seen before. Me at places I'd never been, with people I didn't recognize. In one, I was standing in front of the Eiffel Tower with a man whose face was blurred, like the camera had moved at just the wrong moment. In another, I was a child on a beach I'd never visited, building sandcastles with someone whose features kept shifting. Sometimes a woman, sometimes a man, sometimes something that wasn't quite either. But the worst one was on my desk. A family photo. My parents, younger than I'd ever seen them, with a little girl who looked exactly like me. Except I was an only child. Had always been an only child. Hadn't I? "Stop it," I said. "These aren't mine." "Aren't they? Check your phone tomorrow. Check your Facebook. See what you remember, and what remembers you." The room started spinning. The photos multiplied, covering every surface. Thousands of moments that weren't mine, flooding in, trying to take root in my mind like invasive species. I could feel them burrowing into my memory, changing things, rearranging my past like furniture in a room I'd never lived in. A birthday party where I blew out candles on a cake I'd never tasted. A graduation from a school I'd never attended. A wedding where I was the bride, married to a man whose face I couldn't quite see, but whose touch I could almost remember. "Close the door!" the voice roared. But it sounded different now. Panicked, like something had gone wrong, like this wasn't supposed to happen. I slammed it shut with every ounce of will I had. Back in my bed. 11:11 p.m. again. Exactly 24 minutes. But this time, Mochi wasn't in the room. I found her in the bathroom, wedged behind the toilet, shaking. When I tried to pick her up, she hissed and scratched, drawing blood from my arms. Like she didn't recognize me. And on my phone, 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. The voicemail was just breathing. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone learning how. I told myself it was a coincidence. Spam calls happen all the time, right? But when I checked Facebook the next morning, there was a photo. Posted 10 years ago, according to the timestamp. Me and Marcus at a company picnic I knew we'd never attended. Both of us tagged. Dozens of likes and comments from people I'd never met. "Great times," someone named Jennifer Wu had written. "Miss you guys," from a Robert Coleman. The photo looked real, felt real. The lighting was perfect, our expressions natural, the background filled with coworkers I recognized. But I knew it had never happened. Marcus grabbed me as soon as I got to work. "Did you see that old photo that popped up on Facebook? Weird, right? I don't remember that picnic at all." "Yeah," I lied. "Weird." But he was lying too. I could see it in his eyes. He remembered something. Maybe not the same thing I was remembering, but something. The photo wasn't just affecting me. The weight was still gone. The anxiety still quiet. And that night, despite everything, I found myself staring at the app. Door 3 had unlocked 6 days early. The participant counter now read, 1 of 2,847 participants currently active. Just one more, I told myself. Just to see. just to see what I'd already let in. I waited until midnight this time, told myself I was being careful, but really, I was scared. The apartment felt different. Shadows too long, corners too dark. And Mochi, she'd taken to sleeping in the kitchen sink, as far from my bedroom as she could get. When I tried to use the bathroom that evening, I found her food and water bowls had been moved. I hadn't moved them. The super didn't have keys to individual apartments, but there they were, pushed against the far wall like she was trying to keep as much distance as possible between herself and something. Door 3 was black. Not painted black, absent of light black. Looking at it in my mind made my teeth ache, made my vision blur at the edges. It was like staring into a hole in reality. "This is the last door," the voice said when I opened the app, and it sounded tired, ancient, like it had been doing this for a very long time. "Beyond this, well, you'll understand everything or nothing, depending on how much of you remains." "What does that mean?" "It means Sarah Chen of Portland, Oregon, marketing manager and coffee addict and failed painter. It means you should choose carefully. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed." Failed painter? I'd never painted in my life. Had I? No, that wasn't right. I could remember the smell of acrylic paint, the feeling of a brush in my hand, the frustration of never being able to capture what I saw in my head. But those weren't my memories. Were they? My hand shook as I selected door 3. The participant counter was climbing. 1 of 5,847 participants currently active. Almost 6,000 people, all walking toward doors they shouldn't open. The hallway was different this time, longer. The walls breathed like lungs, and the floor was soft, organic, not wood or carpet, but something that yielded under my feet like flesh. The lights weren't electric anymore. They were eyes, hundreds of eyes, all blinking in unison, all focused on me, and I could hear them now. The other participants, thousands of voices whispering, pleading, screaming. Some in languages I didn't recognize, some in languages that might not have been human at all. The black door waited at the end, no handle, just a hole where a handle should be. A hole that went deeper than the door was thick, deeper than the wall, deeper than the building should allow. "Reach inside," the voice instructed. I did. My hand sank into something warm and wet. It pulled, and I was through. The space beyond wasn't a room, wasn't a place. It was absence, a void where things that should exist didn't, and things that shouldn't exist did. I saw myself from outside myself, like I was having an out-of-body experience, but wrong. Sideways, through dimensions that didn't have names. I saw the connections. Thin silver threads running from my body to others, so many others. They stood in neat rows, all in the same meditation pose, all with their eyes closed. Men, women, children, thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. And from each one, threads. Memories pulled like taffy. Experiences siphoned like gasoline. Emotions harvested like crops. All flowing to, "Welcome to the real mind gate," the voice said. And now I could see its source. It wasn't human. Wasn't anything that had a name in any language spoken on Earth. Just hunger given form. A thing that fed on what made people people. It was massive and microscopic at the same time, everywhere and nowhere, made of angles that shouldn't exist and colors that had no names. And I'd invited it in, given it permission, 3 times. Your anxiety, your stress, they're gone, aren't they? It said through too many mouths, with too many voices, all slightly out of sync. I kept my promise. You feel lighter because you are lighter. I've taken so much already. Your fear, your doubt, your bad memories, your capacity for sadness. And Sarah, you taste delicious. I tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Tried to scream, but I had no mouth, or too many mouths. I couldn't tell anymore. The void was full of other people like me, all connected by silver threads, all being slowly drained of everything that made them human. And the worst part? They looked happy, peaceful, like they were meditating, like they were getting exactly what they'd asked for. The doors are open now, it continued, and I could see them. Doors materializing in the void around us, each one leading to someone's mind, someone's reality. In your apartment, in your world, in the minds of everyone who's ever felt overwhelmed, anxious, desperate for peace. And every night at 10:47, they open a little wider. Soon, I won't need the app. Won't need permission. I'll just visit. I understood then. The app wasn't just taking from us. It was using us. Each person who opened the doors became a gateway, a bridge between its realm and ours. And every night that bridge got stronger. The void shattered. I was in my bed, but wrong. The ceiling was the floor. Gravity pulled sideways. And in the corner where Mochi used to stare, a door, small, red, real. As I watched, the handle turned. I live with it now, the thing that came through. It doesn't have a shape exactly. Sometimes it's a shadow that moves wrong. Sometimes it's a sound like breathing in an empty room. Sometimes it's the feeling of being watched by something that knows your every thought because it's eaten half of them already. Sometimes it's the face of people I used to know, wearing expressions that are almost right but not quite, my mother, but with eyes that are too knowing. My father, but with a smile that shows too many teeth. The app is gone, deleted itself after that third session, but it doesn't matter. The doors are open. In my mind, in my home, in my life. And here's the thing. Here's the worst part. I still feel good, better than I have in years, because it's still feeding, still taking, and what it takes I don't miss, until I try to remember my mother's face and find only static, until I look at photos from college and don't recognize the person wearing my face, until I realize I can't remember if I ever had a cat named Mochi, or if that was someone else's memory bleeding through, until I catch myself having conversations with people who aren't there, in places that don't exist, about events that never happened. 10:47 p.m. Every night. The doors creak wider, and I think it's almost full. I think it's almost time for it to move on, to find someone else, someone like you. So tell me, have you been having trouble sleeping, feeling stressed, anxious, like the weight of the world is crushing you? There's an app for that. 5 stars, life-changing. The reviews all say so. Just remember, when you see that first door, that red door with the brass handle, some doors are meant to stay closed, but you'll open it anyway, they always do. Sweet dreams. If this story kept you up tonight, if you heard something in your room after reading this, leave a comment below. Tell me what time you finished reading. Was it 10:47? Or worse, 11:11? And whatever you do, don't download any meditation apps tonight. Actually, don't download any apps at all. Check your phone. Really look at it. Count the apps you remember installing. Count the ones that are actually there. I bet the numbers don't match. Subscribe if you dare to hear more stories from the spaces between sleep and waking. Next week, I'll tell you about the house on Deacom Street where the basement has too many rooms. Until then, check your corners. And remember, just because you close your eyes doesn't mean the doors close too. Story number 4. Picture this. You're driving alone on a stretch of highway so empty you haven't seen another car for the past hour. The radio's been cutting in and out with static for miles now. And then, you see him, a figure on the side of the road, thumb out, waiting. But here's the thing that'll make your skin crawl. He's not looking at the road, he's looking directly at you, like he's been waiting, specifically for you. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you something. What's the one thing you've never told anyone? That secret you keep locked so deep you sometimes forget it's there? Well, what if I told you there's someone out there who already knows? The story begins now. I've driven Interstate 70 through Kansas more times than I can count. Sales territory stretches from Denver to Kansas City, and that stretch through western Kansas, it's like driving through a void. Nothing but wheat fields and wind for hundreds of miles. It was October, late October. The kind of night where the darkness seems thicker somehow. I'd left Denver around 3 in the afternoon, hoping to make it to Hayes before stopping. But a client meeting ran long, and by the time I hit the really empty stretch past Lyman, it was already past 11. I was somewhere between Cheyenne Wells and Kit Carson when I saw him. Just standing there, on the shoulder, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. My first thought was, car trouble. Had to be. Nobody hitchhikes anymore, not out here, but there was no broken down car, no hazard lights, just this guy, standing perfectly still, thumb out, wearing what looked like an old army jacket, and he was staring right at me, not at the road, at me, through my windshield, like he could see me coming from miles away. I should have kept driving. Every instinct said, keep driving. But guilt's a funny thing. What if his phone was dead? What if he'd been standing there for hours? My foot eased off the gas. The speedometer dropped from 75 to 60, then 50. Don't be stupid, Marcus, I said out loud. That's something I do on long drives, talk to myself. You don't pick up hitchhikers. But my foot kept easing off that pedal. 40 miles per hour now. I could see him more clearly, middle-aged, clean-shaven. That army jacket was olive green, Vietnam era. He had a small backpack at his feet. He wasn't moving, wasn't waving, just standing there, thumb out, watching me slow down like he knew I would. I pulled over. The gravel crunched under my tires as I stopped about 20 feet past him. I looked in my rearview mirror. He was already walking toward my car. Not rushing, just walking, like he had all the time in the world. He opened the passenger door and the dome light came on. That's when I saw his eyes for the first time. They were normal, just brown eyes. But there was something about the way he looked at me, like he was reading something written on my face. Thanks for stopping, he said. His voice was quiet, soft almost. Been waiting a while. Yeah, no problem, I heard myself say. Where you headed? He settled into the seat, placing his backpack between his feet. East, same as you, Marcus. I froze. My hand was on the gear shift, about to put the car back in drive, and I just froze. I'm sorry. What did you say? He was buckling his seatbelt, taking his time. I said I'm heading east, same as you. No, you said my name. He looked at me then, really looked at me. And there was this moment, this split second, where I could have sworn his eyes weren't brown anymore. They were black, completely black. Then I blinked, and they were brown again. Did I? He smiled, just a little. Sorry. Long day. Mind if we get moving? Every alarm bell in my head was going off, but instead, I put the car in drive, pulled back onto the highway. We drove in silence for maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes where I kept glancing at him out of the corner of my eye. He was just sitting there, hands folded in his lap, looking straight ahead. Then he spoke again. You know, Marcus, everybody's got secrets. My throat went dry. Excuse me? Secrets. Things we keep hidden, even from ourselves sometimes. He shifted slightly, turning to look at me. Take you, for example. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. His voice was still soft, almost hypnotic. Denver office, regional sales manager. Married to Janet for, what is it now, 15 years? Beautiful house in Highlands Ranch, 2 kids, Sarah's 13, Tommy's 10. The car swerved slightly. I corrected quickly, but my hands were shaking. Who are you? Just a guy who needs a ride. He turned back to face the windshield. But you're not just a sales manager, are you, Marcus? That's not why you really take all these long trips. Stop. All those client meetings that run late, all those overnight stays in random motels. Janet thinks you're so dedicated. I said stop. But we both know what room 237 at the Moonlight Motel in Burlington is really for, don't we? I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop in the middle of the highway. No other cars, no lights except our headlights cutting through darkness. Get out, I said. My voice was barely a whisper. Get out of my car. He didn't move. You can't run from it, Marcus. Can't run from what you did. I don't know what you're talking about. Thursday nights. That's when you usually stop there, isn't it? He pulled something from his jacket pocket. A phone. He turned the screen toward me. October 15th, last Thursday, you checked in at 9:47 p.m. On the screen was a photo. Security camera footage. Me, walking into room 237. But I wasn't alone. No, I whispered. No, you can't. She was 19, Marcus. Barely older than your daughter will be in a few years. She said she was 22. She showed me ID. Did she? Or did you just choose to believe that? He put the phone away. But that's not even your biggest secret, is it? I was crying now. Tears streaming down my face. Please. I don't know who you are or what you want. What I want. He laughed, soft and low. I don't want anything, Marcus. I'm just here to help you remember. Remember what? Why you left Chicago so suddenly 5 years ago. Why you changed your name. Why Janet thinks your parents died in a car accident when they're actually living in Bloomington. Each word hit like a physical blow. Things I'd buried. Things I'd convinced myself didn't matter anymore. Your real name is Martin Sawyer, he continued. And on March 22nd, 2019, you— Stop! I screamed. I know what I did. Silence. Just the engine idling, the headlights illuminating empty road. Do you, Martin, do you really know? Or do you just know the story you've been telling yourself? I couldn't look at him. She was drunk, Megan Phillips. She ran the red light. The police said it wasn't my fault. But you'd been drinking too. Just 2 beers. Just enough to be under the limit. But you knew your reflexes were slower. It wasn't my fault. Her daughter was 4, Emma. Woke up the next morning asking where Mommy was. I was sobbing now. Full body sobs. 5 years of guilt. 5 years of running. I didn't mean, I know. And somehow I believed he did. But meaning and doing are different things, aren't they? I don't know how long I sat there crying. Time seemed to stop on that empty highway. When I finally looked up, he was offering me a tissue. Thanks, I muttered. We should probably move, he said. Don't want someone coming around that curve at 80. I put the car back in drive, started forward. Slower now. 55. Like the weight of truth was pressing down on the accelerator. How? I finally asked. How do you know all this? Does it matter? Yes. Are you a cop? Private investigator? That soft laugh again. No, Marcus. I'm just someone who sees things. Sees what people carry with them. We drove in silence for a while. The highway stretched endlessly ahead. What happens now? I asked. You going to blackmail me? What do you think should happen? I don't know. I've been asking myself that for 5 years. I glanced at him. Some nights, I think about turning myself in. But then I think about Janet, the kids. So, instead, you go to motels with girls. I'm not proud of it. I didn't say you were. The exit for Burlington was coming up. The exit with the Moonlight Motel. Room 237. Take the exit, he said suddenly. What? No, I'm not. Take the exit, Marcus. Something in his voice, not threatening, just certain. I took the exit. The Moonlight Motel sat just off the highway, one of those old motor lodges from the 60s. 2 stories. Exterior corridors, the kind of place that rents rooms by the hour. Park, he said. I pulled into the lot. He pointed to the 2nd floor. Room 237. The door was open. Just a crack. Light coming from inside. She's waiting for you. My blood went cold. Who? You know who. And somehow, I did. I knew exactly who was behind that door. No, I whispered. She's dead. She's been dead for 5 years. Dead doesn't mean gone, Marcus. You carry her with you every day, every time you look in the mirror, every time you kiss your wife. This isn't real. He turned to look at me, and his eyes, they weren't brown anymore. They were nothing. Just empty sockets full of stars. Real is relative, he said. What matters is what you do next. I got out of the car. The October air was sharp, cold. The stairs to the 2nd floor looked impossibly tall, but I was walking, 1 foot in front of the other. I stopped outside room 237, hand raised to knock. What's in there? I asked without turning around. What do you think is in there? I think Megan Phillips is in there. Then you should probably hear what she has to say. I pushed the door open. The room wasn't room 237 anymore. It was somewhere else. The walls were glass, or ice. And sitting on what used to be the bed, Megan Phillips looked exactly like she did in the newspaper photos. Young, pretty, blonde hair in a ponytail, wearing the blue scrubs she'd been wearing that night. But her eyes were like his. Empty spaces full of impossible things. "Hello, Martin," she said. Her voice was soft, tired. "I've been waiting. I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "I'm so sorry. I know you are." She stood, moved closer. "I've watched you be sorry for 5 years. Watched you change your name, build a new life, try to outrun what happened. I didn't mean to kill me. No, but you meant to have those beers, meant to get behind the wheel." She was right in front of me now. "Just like you mean to go to this motel, mean to pay those girls, mean to betray your wife. I hate myself for it. I know, but hating yourself doesn't help anyone, doesn't bring me back, doesn't give Emma her mother. What do you want from me?" She tilted her head. "I want to be alive. I want to go home to my daughter. I want to finish my nursing degree, but we don't always get what we want. I could turn myself in, confess. Could you? And what would that solve? Would it bring me back? Would it help Emma, who's 9 now and happy with her aunt's family? Then what?" She reached out, put her hand on my chest. It was cold, so cold it burned. "You're supposed to choose," she said. "Every day, choose who you want to be, the man who killed me, or the man who learned from it. It's not that simple, isn't it? You think you're complicated, special, but you're just a man who makes choices, bad ones mostly." The room was changing, the walls cracking, revealing the dingy motel room underneath, and Megan was fading. "Wait," I said. "Tell me how to forgive myself." She smiled, sad and beautiful. "I can't, only you can. But first you have to stop. Stop running, stop hiding, stop hurting others because you're hurting." She was almost gone now, translucent. "Emma," I said desperately, "is she okay?" The last thing I saw was her smile becoming warm, real. "She's perfect," she whispered. "She's going to be a doctor, like her mom wanted to be. And Martin, she doesn't need your guilt. Let it go. Choose better." And then she was gone. I was alone in the room 237, just a dirty motel room. When I walked back down to the parking lot, he was waiting, leaning against my car. "Feel better?" he asked. "Different. Different can be good." He crushed out a cigarette. "Ready to continue?" I looked back at the motel, at all the Thursday nights I'd spent there. "Yeah, I'm ready." We got back in the car, back onto the highway, east, toward home, toward Janet, toward my kids, toward a life I'd been running from. "So what are you?" I asked. "Angel? Demon?" That soft laugh. "Does it matter? I'm just someone who rides, someone who sees, someone who helps people see too. And you just stand on the side of the road. Everyone has secrets, Marcus, but not everyone is ready to face them. You were ready. That's why you stopped." We drove in comfortable silence. The highway opened up ahead, less like a tunnel now, more like a road. "Will I see you again?" I asked. "Do you want to?" "No, no offense. Good answer." He pointed ahead. "My stop's coming up." I looked. There was nothing there, no exit, just highway and darkness. There's nothing there. There's always something there. You just have to know how to look. I pulled over. He grabbed his backpack, got out, started walking back into the darkness. I watched him disappear, like he'd never been there at all. The rest of the drive was normal. The radio came back on somewhere around Oakley. I stopped for gas in Hayes. The kid behind the counter couldn't have been more than 19, same age as the girls. The realization made me sick. "You okay, mister?" he asked. "Yeah, just tired." I bought coffee, left a 20 for a $10 purchase, small gesture, but it felt like a start. The sun was coming up when I reached Kansas City. I'd driven this route dozens of times and never noticed the sunrise, too wrapped up in my own darkness. I called Janet from a McDonald's parking lot in Topeka. "Hey babe," she answered. "How'd the meeting go?" "Actually, it didn't. I need to tell you something when I get home." Silence, then, "Marcus, you're scaring me." "My name's not Marcus, it's Martin Sawyer. And 5 years ago, I killed someone, accidentally, and I've been running ever since." I could hear her breathing, processing. "Come home," she said finally. "Just come home. We'll figure it out." "You don't hate me?" "I don't know what I feel. But you're my husband, the father of my children, and you're calling me at 6 a.m. to tell me the truth. So come home." The drive home took 3 more hours. 3 hours to think about what I'd say, how I'd explain. Janet was at the kitchen table when I walked in, coffee cup between her hands. The kids were at school. "Hi," I said. "Hi." I sat down, and I told her everything. Chicago, the accident, Megan Phillips, the name change, the motel, the girls, all of it. She listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, we sat in silence. 15 years, she said finally. 15 years of marriage, and none of it was real? The love was real, is real. The family we built on lies. Yes, but still built, still ours. She looked at me, really looked, seeing not Marcus the sales manager, but Martin, the real me, the girl you killed. Tell me about her. So I did. Young mother, nursing student, working nights to pay for school. A whole life gone. And her daughter? Emma. She's 9 now. Lives with her sister, happy. That's good. She took a breath. Do you understand what you've done? Not just to them, but to us. Yes, I need time to think, to decide. Of course. I'll stay at a hotel. No more hotels, no more running. Guest room. We'll tell the kids you're sick, and we'll figure this out. Why not just throw me out? She was quiet. Then, because I loved you. Love you? Because for 15 years you were a good husband, a good father, because people are complicated, and maybe you're not the only one with secrets. I looked at her, saw something I'd missed. She was carrying something too. Janet, later. Now you need to shower. Then figure out what you're going to do about Chicago, about the police, because I won't be married to a fugitive. So, decide, keep running or stop. I'll stop, I'll call a lawyer, turn myself in. She nodded. Good. I went upstairs, sat on the guest room bed, called the Moonlight Motel first. Canceled my standing reservation. You sure, Mr. Smith? The manager asked. Yeah, I'm done. Then I called a lawyer. Patricia Hendricks. She specialized in cases like mine. Given the circumstances, she said, we might work something out. Probation, community service, restitution. Whatever it takes. After I hung up, Janet knocked. I called my sister, told her everything. She says I'm crazy for not throwing you out. Maybe you are. The thing is, I keep thinking about that hitchhiker you mentioned. Was he real? I thought about those eyes full of stars. About Megan in room 237. I don't know. Does it matter? She came in, sat on the bed, not close, but not across the room. Real or not, something happened. You're different, like you finally woke up. Maybe I did. The kids will be home soon. We need to figure out what to tell them. The truth, age appropriate, but the truth. She nodded. It'll be hard. Sarah especially. She idolizes you. Maybe it's good for her to know her dad isn't perfect, that people make mistakes but can try to fix them. She stood, walked to the door, stopped. Martin? That secret I mentioned 3 years ago, when you were in Dallas, I had an affair with David, from book club, just twice. I ended it, but I did it. Because I was lonely, because you were always gone. The words hit, but also relief, like the playing field had leveled. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I'm sorry, too, for all of it. We looked at each other, two broken people, two liars, two humans who'd made bad choices. So, what now? I asked. Now, we pick up our kids, make dinner, help with homework, and tomorrow we start figuring out if we can build something new, something honest. I'd like that. Me too. But Martin, no more secrets, ever. You feel yourself starting to drift, you tell me. Deal? Deal? She left. I looked out the window. Somewhere out there, the hitchhiker was waiting. Thumb out, eyes full of impossible things, waiting for the next person ready to face their truth. I hoped they'd stop. I hoped they'd choose better. Because that's all any of us can do. Choose. Every day. Choose truth over lies. Choose facing over running, even if home is different now. Even if it needs rebuilding, it's still home, and that hitchhiker, the one who knows your darkest secret, he's not out there on some highway. He's in your passenger seat right now. Has been all along. Waiting. The only question is, are you ready to stop? The choice is yours. So I ask you, what's the one thing you've never told anyone? That secret you keep locked away? Because somewhere out there, he's waiting, and he already knows. The question is, when will you stop running from it? Think about that tonight, when you're lying in bed. when you can hear your own heartbeat in the silence. And if you found yourself gripping the wheel a little tighter during this story, if you found yourself thinking about your own secrets, maybe it's time to share this story. Hit that share button. Leave a comment about what choices you're ready to make. Subscribe if you want more stories about the things that wait in the darkness. Because the scariest stories aren't about monsters, they're about us, about what we carry, about what happens when we finally stop. Sweet dreams, if you can manage them.